freedom, freedom, freedom.
This is an NBC special news briefing.
The 1960s was a decade full of such monumental historical events that it is almost impossible to truly appreciate their effect on present-day America.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child.
It is both fascinating and paradoxical that so many of the issues that drive people today erupted to the forefront of the national consciousness during that tumultuous decade. The March on Washington, which led to the passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique in 1962, which gave birth to the women's movement. The genesis of the environmental movement, thanks to Rachel Carson's bestseller Silent Spring, also in 1962, which led to the Clean Air Act of 1967, and the beginning of the gay rights movement at the Stonewall Rebellion in 1969. This massive social upheaval comprises the backdrop for my project, a streaming series about hippie communes in northern New Mexico in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Combining historical research and dramatic fiction, my story takes the viewer inside the vibrant, back-to-the-land social experiments that sprung up all over the country when young people tuned in, turned on, and dropped out. Farming, meditating, going vegetarian, doing yoga, trying psychedelics, free love, and anything else that helped them reject their parents' rigid and oppressive social structures, live their ideals, and remake society for a new age.
Clap your hands, clap your hands, clap your hands, clap your hands.
It's easy to dismiss the young hippies of the 1960s as naive, pot-smoking idealists, more interested in drugs, sex, and rock and roll than doing anything meaningful for the country. But as these young folk faced the real threat of being drafted into the Vietnam War, they chafed against the rigid social conformity of the 1950s. They were ostracized, injured, and even killed for protesting against the war and for civil rights. And full of compassion for those less fortunate than themselves, they were willing to stand up, fight, and die for their beliefs, which drove them to experiment widely with alternative spiritualities and, yes, even drugs, leaving no stone unturned in their attempt to create a more fair and healthy American society. My project originates from research into the New Mexico hippie communes by my late uncle Joe Odermatt. He theorized that the movement found its genesis in countercultural icons Gary Snyder, Allen Ginsberg, and Timothy Leary, who famously urged young people to tune in, turn on, and drop out of society.
We tell young people today, drop out of school, because schools, education today, is the worst narcotic drug of all. Don't politic, don't vote. These are old men's games, impotent and senile old men that want to put you onto their old chess games of war and power. Drop out. Tune in with natural things. Take off your shoes. Get back in tune with God's harmony. Surround yourself with beauty and sacred objects. You can't get caught in the conforming, rote lockstep, which we call American society.
Novelist Ken Kesey then took it a step further by throwing acid test parties at Stanford University and around the country before finally encouraging young people to graduate beyond LSD and live their values instead.
I believe that every head knows that he takes a drug to eventually stop taking it. And I think that it's time for a great number of them to stop because they finished with that thing and that they have the equipment now to do it without it.
This helped inspire a back-to-the-land commune movement that grew to include hundreds of thousands of young people in an estimated 3,000 communes across the country. New Mexico was a hotbed of communal activity, home to 55 of them by 1970. As Margaret Hollenbach wrote in her book about the communal experience, when Ken Kesey said it was time to go beyond LSD and live your vision, we agreed. New Mexico at that time was still the Wild West, offering the kind of freedom necessary for the young hippies to push the boundaries of communal living. Some forged bonds with local tribes of Native Americans and studied their ways. Others waged war with developers using eco-terrorism to protect the environment. Some clashed with Hispanic communities who found their gaming of the food stamp system and self-righteous experiments like group marriage objectionable. My project consists of a series Bible that provides context, lays out the historical and geographical background for the project, provides character breakdowns, maps out the arc of the first season and beyond, and offers visual references for the look and tone of the series, alongside a pilot script for the first episode. The pilot follows a young woman named Frida, a grad student in Colorado who drops out to join The Family, a group marriage commune run by a charismatic ex-con. There, she finds her people, creative young misfits and renegades passionate about exploring free love with the help of the ancient wisdom of the I Ching and cutting-edge psychologies like Gestalt therapy in an attempt to get in touch with their true selves. This scene dramatizes the effect that Ken Kesey and the acid test graduation had on the young hippie communards and how he inspired some of them to move from the Bay Area to the wilds of New Mexico. Exterior, downtown San Francisco, 1966 night. Halloween decorations line the shop windows of the shuttered stores. Young hippies in costumes bustle down the street. Tobias, 35, a tripped-out black ex-con missing his 2 front teeth, potbelly hanging out of his sheepskin vest, steps out a doorway. The young hippies beckon. Curiosity piqued, he struts over. Tobias follows the crowd to a warehouse. Further, a school bus covered in psychedelic graffiti is parked in front. A small crowd of costumed revelers gather on their way inside. Interior, the California Hall night. A few hundred costumed hippies, merry pranksters in white jumpsuits decorated with American flags, and Hell's Angels, acting as security, are dwarfed by the large warehouse. A large banner behind the stage reads, "Acid Test Graduation." A massive orange and white parachute hangs from the ceiling, creating a circus-like atmosphere. A camera crew and groups of reporters are gathered in the corner, scribbling notes and making last-minute preparations. 4 undercover police officers stroll in. Like whispered wildfire, a murmur of "cops" spreads through the crowd. A shirtless Neil Cassidy, 40, the clean-cut, muscular, ragged beat icon, leaps on stage and rasps into the mic. 4 custom-tailored constables, you understand, looking for pearl heads among the swine herds, the constabulary cops. Ken Kesey, 31, a hulk of a man with a curly shock of receding dirty blonde hair and white tights with an American flag sash draped across his barrel chest, bounds on stage. Cops? Here, they come in waves. They're a pattern that repeats. A few hippies bolt out the door. Tobias scurries through the shadows to follow them out. He stops when he hears Kesey. Yes, violence, you understand? There's not going to be any violence here. If we wanted violence, we have some fellas who could furnish it. Ha! A good cop is a dead cop. A good cop is a dead cop. The cameraman films the police officers as their cover blown. They turn and shuffle out. Tobias watches the cops leave, impressed. He turns to Kesey with rapt attention as Kesey starts his sermon. Are you getting this? No, Kesey, get Kesey. He's about to tell the acid heads to stop dosing. Shh. For a year, we've been in the Garden of Eden. Acid opened the door, we entered and stayed a while. Cop out! Kesey's copping out! A Hell's Angel glares at the costumed hippie. He shuts up. But now, it's time to move on. Every head knows he takes a drug to one day stop taking it. It's time we did something with our experience. We need to get out there and live our values. It's time to change the world. There's a smattering of applause. Behind him, the Grateful Dead play a psychedelic rock version of the Graduation March. Interior, the California Hall backstage green room night. Tobias lounges on the plush velvet couches, sharing a joint with Kesey, Duncan, 35, a well-groomed hippie in fine linens, and Miriam, 16, a sincere brunette. There's nothing wrong with drugs. There's nothing wrong with the crazy feeling, you know? A good toke of hash, a little DMT, you shoot laughers and you're Russian and you're lying on a thing and there's a bird, you know? Groovy, but my personal hang-ups weren't created by drugs and they're not going to be cured by them. Right, there's nothing special about drugs except as an escape. Like, I'm 16, I've been up on acid 40 times, and I've smoked pot, and I've smoked DMT sprayed pot, and I've smoked hash, well, and I've taken pills, you know, and I've been through the whole thing. It's important, right, to realize that you're gonna have to deal with yourself stone cold sober and face some painfully unknowns and some very, very, very real anxieties. Preach, brother. That's far out. That's why I'm digging this graduation trip. In fact, we're doing it already. You ever been to New Mexico? Interior 2-story apartment night. Tobias storms in and flips on the lights, waking Leonard, 23, a tall, lanky, bespectacled man huddled on a mattress on the floor beside Sean, 28, a delicate woman with fierce eyes. Leonard, wake everyone up. Tobias, it's like 4 a.m, man. I'm calling a Gestalt session. Leonard's face turns serious. He nods and runs upstairs. Everyone up! Come on down! Wake up! Everyone, let's go! Moments later, the family, 12 hippie men and women, 20s to 30s, crowd into the living room, laying on the couches and chairs and sitting cross-legged on the floor. Tobias perches on a chair with Leonard standing at his side. It's time to start living our values. It's time to change the world. We're going to New Mexico. New Mexico? The group murmurs. Tobias stands.
If you don't look at the history of today through the lens of the 1960s, in my opinion, you can't really understand it.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I should say. Say them loud, say them clear, for the whole round world to hear.
By 1973, the number of communes in New Mexico had dwindled significantly, and today, only one remains, though a number of intentional communities have cropped up in their stead. Is the fact that the phenomena burned briefly, however brightly, cause to write it off completely? Or, in a time when young people are increasingly concerned with environmentalism, racism, sexism, consumerism, and open to experimenting with alternative ways of structuring society, could there be lessons to learn from the Back to the Land communal movement of the 60s and 70s? Is it possible that the communards' attempts to live their ideals laid a foundation, created a blueprint, or at the very least, provided a cautionary tale for a new generation to build on? These are the questions that Wind in the Buffalo Grass, in the most entertaining way possible, seeks to explore.
'Cause I know how it feels.